Hello, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in on Zoom. We've got a number of things to discuss, of course, and it's great to see you all here present and participating. Just look, I'm just going to do the introductions, and then I'll hand over to Deb and anyone else that's going to continue on. Just wanted to acknowledge obviously the land at which we are meeting on, and want to offer my respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging. So with further ado, I'll hand over to Deb to start off with.
Great, thanks, Eddie. So I'm just going to take you through a brief PowerPoint presentation. I'll share my screen now. Okay, everybody can see that?
Yes.
Beautiful. So back earlier this year, probably in around, I think it was either the February or the April board meeting, members of the RDA Illawarra board, of which there are 14 board members, had quite a bit of discussion about the future of work and what does that mean to our community and what does that mean to organisations. And we had quite an in-depth discussion about, is this going to be just a social experiment that we're all in, or is it going to be the way that we are going to continue to work into the future? And to enable that discussion, we looked at it just from a very simple continuum perspective, which you have on your screen, which is one end of the continuum, we have, what we were doing before, which is essentially 100% in the office, and the other end of the continuum is working from anywhere. And naturally, there are some people management considerations that go along with that. What we also discussed was, the need for further discussion on decentralisation and whether this would actually change the Illawarra from a regional development perspective. So there are many layers to this whole conversation, and as you're all aware, it was all unfolding and we were, managing as we go in terms of the new landscape. So what we then decided to do was to undertake a project, and that during the last few months we've been undertaking lots of interviews. Some of you have kindly joined us today, and you'll see your names on the screen there with local organisations that we've conducted interviews and discussions with. We've so far written 4 thought leadership pieces out of a series of 8 and submitted those for publishing, and we're just waiting to hear back on whether those will be acceptable to be published. And we're also looking at a couple of case studies at the moment that we will be writing up. In addition to that, we're at the middle point of our project plan, which has a roundtable discussion, which we're at today. And ideally, we'd like to see us get some funding from the federal government, which has determined that it's going to spend something in the order of 41 million on the matter of decentralisation, on policy and research in that frame. So we've put forward to them a synopsis of a project that we'd like to undertake as a pilot region in the Illawarra. So we're pitching a pilot program in the Illawarra on decentralisation to the federal government. So that's why we're doing it. The other context as to why is that 65% of the people in the Illawarra region who are in our working community can actually work remotely and don't have to be located or chained to a desk or whatever. So it affects a lot of us, and that's why we're going to. But I don't want to talk anymore. What I'd like to do is to move on to our speakers. I'd like to move on to our poll. So as I said to you before, we're going to ask you a few questions because we thought we didn't ask you to come along for just to be talked out. We asked you to come along to get engaged. And so there are 3 questions there that Sharon will in a minute put up on a poll. You will only have a minute to answer them, so please don't overthink it. And then straight from here, we're going to move into our first keynote speaker, and that's Craig Osborne. Craig, most of you will probably know, is the managing partner of RMB Lawyers, and he also manages the Unison Outsourcing Proprietary Limited. And I won't tell you too much about him because he will actually unveil that, except to say thank you, Craig, for all the time you spend in our community, especially on the RDA Illawarra board, but also in the Port Kembla community and all of the things that you generously do for our community.
Thanks very much, Deb. Very kind of you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm very grateful that we've got participants. Look, I want to speak about 2 business case studies that may resonate with you about the future of work. And in those case studies, my focus will be on the value of working from anywhere, where Wollongong is that anywhere, and how working from anywhere is helping 2 businesses solve some significant business problems. See, most people are very limited in their thinking about the benefits of remote working. Everyone churns out, oh, isn't it great to give your team members and workers flexibility and reduced travel time and all the things that go with it. But in my experience, the benefits are far, far greater than that. So to cut to the chase, I operate 2, what I'd loosely describe as law firm businesses. Deb, yeah, wow, geez, you're good. You've got the slide up already. I've only got 2 slides. I just didn't want to be slideless. So the first one is shown on the left of the screen. I describe that as, it's called R&B Lawyers, and it's a regional law firm. And the business operates 11 offices. It owns the businesses in those geographies in the blue. It's negotiating constantly with other businesses to buy or merge or develop some arrangement. And 2 are shown there, one in Cronulla and one in Parkes, but there's actually 6 negotiations going at the moment. And the yellow ones are the clever ones. They're strategic arrangements, which I'll get to, but where those law firms ask R&B to do work that they don't want to do, of course, remotely. And we do 2 sorts of work. One is for individuals, I call that personal services, and one is businesses, which I call commercial. Now, across this network, as of today, this business will take 500 new transactions or court cases every month. It operates on any one day about 4,200 court cases and transactions. So let's forget the problems that R&B solves for its customers. Let's today have a look at the problems that need to be solved for R&B as a business. And there's 4 main ones. The first one is when you're selling anything in regional Australia, you're selling to a sparsely populated area. And frankly, you can run out of people to sell your stuff to. And this is why you see the wide-ranging geographic expansion on the left of screen. Second problem is specialisation. One lawyer can no longer cover many areas of law. Those days are just over. Third, there's intense competition, like most mature markets, which leads to commoditisation of law. And as markets become more competitive, to succeed, you must perform bigger volumes of work at faster pace to defray the obvious, which is reducing profit margins. And as an aside, a quirky aside, there are more law students studying at Australian universities today than there are lawyers practicing in Australia. So there are lawyers everywhere. That means lawyers' incomes are dropping, and there are big winners, and frankly, there's the rest. Fourth, the sad truth is that not many young people want to live and work in remote Australia anymore. You see this in many, many countries, but Australia's really got a wriggle on with people who are young people who've got backgrounds in Lake Cargelligo and Hillston and places like that. They just don't want to work there anymore. So you can see that R&B has initially made a widespread in a geographic shape to access more people to sell its stuff to. And it's true to say that, like in any business, the business that makes the most sales has got a fair chance of winning. With respect to our lawyer labour, this is the nub of what I want to say today. It's extremely difficult for us to hire and retain lawyers at our remote offices. Okay, I've got absolutely no problem getting an enormous talent pool of lawyers to come and live in Wollongong. I have huge trouble convincing young lawyers to live, work and play in Lake Cargelligo or Parkes. However, of interest is there is really, really good legal work out there in those areas. And the competition, quite frankly, is very thin. It's not strong. So how do you get the work from there? And how do you do it? How do you service that work? So how does working from anywhere help R&B solve its business problems? Let's face it, there are multiple specialties in law now. Let's say there's 6 basic ones. you can't afford to have 6 specialist lawyers in parks. One, you can't get them to go there. 2, you can't afford to have them there, and you can't afford to duplicate expensive resources. So to solve this problem, whilst only about 25% of our work, or maybe 30, is derived from Wollongong and Illawarra, as at today, 65% plus is performed here. The process, Deb, if I could just have a look at that, my Mankey slide 2. I hand drew this one. This is how it works. Client says, okay, I'm a farmer. I need some advice on trading livestock to India. I've got a problem with Rabobank. They're not going to find that specialty in, let's call it Lake Ageligo. And they make an appointment at the Lake Ageligo office, whether it's an R&B office or someone we've got a strategic arrangement with. And they get to the little foyer, and the concierge meets them and takes them in a room to meet Craig Osborne, say. And as they go into the room, there's Craig on the screen, smiling and trying to look personable. It's an easy video conference. And the lawyer maybe lives in Wollongong, but can be in the office, can be home, can be in a hub, can be at the innovation campus with Deb. It doesn't matter anymore where they are. And pre-COVID, I can reassure you, when we were trialling this, country people thought this was impersonal, inappropriate, and naff. Post-COVID, country people say this is just what the doctor ordered. So if you could just have a look back at image 1, sorry, Deb, the one of R&B on the left and Eunice on the right, you can quickly see what we're up to. It's coming. Yeah, just the one back. Thanks, Deb. Thank you. Going on to Unison, the second business I run is shown diagrammatically on the right. This business undertakes legal process outsourcing. It's the only fully owned and operated LPO in Australia, and it has very different clients. They are either very large law firms in capital cities or very significant in-house legal teams in capital cities like Origin Energy or Westpac. And these clients don't come from regional Australia, they come from Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane mostly. And the problem Unison solves for its capital cities clients is we use regional Australia, it's much lower cost base, and it's very, very large talent pool, partly arising from the university, partly not, to perform transactions or parts of transactions that really shouldn't be performed at capital city rates. Now, the problem this business solves for regional law is a beauty. You can never, ever run out of the work that's available. You just can't, it's endless. So what this firm does is it drags work out of capital cities to regional Australia, and 90% of it's performed in Wollongong. It's a reverse globalisation model. So we employ lawyers at the beginning of their career, lawyers in semi-retirement, lawyers coming back from parenting roles, and students. And we deploy them to work from smart hubs, home, office, or anywhere, but mostly in Wollongong. So to wind it up, R&B and Unison, in both businesses, we take orders just like a bakery. We bake those goods like sausage rolls, and they're very nice sausage rolls, by the way. They're not just plain sausage rolls, pies. We take those orders and we bake those goods and we transport the products to our customers. And our transport's not planes, trains, and automobiles. It's internet and it's free, and distance becomes zero problem. The working from anywhere model is working very well. We started a 10-year expansion plan 3 months ago, and we think we're going to hit the metrics for that in 3 to 4 years. So just going back to the R&B on the yellow, the strategic arrangements, they're law firms that say we don't have all the specialties here, but we don't want our clients to disappear to our competitors in our hometown. So will you please do the commercial litigation, the complex interfamily disputes for us, and act as an arm of our firm? And we said that's fabulous because we don't have to market for that work. We don't have to have floor space. We don't even have to have the labour out there. And we work in conjunction with those other lawyers, so they're still involved in the process. So working from anywhere is a game changer for R&B, and quite frankly, has always been the backbone of Unison. The fact that most individuals and business people now see that this sort of conduct and electronic communication as absolutely normal is fortuitous. Of course, it's very important to understand that working from home and provides flexibility and all of that, but more particularly for the two businesses I've just described, it solves problems of remoteness between geographies. It solves many of the problems of hiring and retaining labour, and also many of the problems of providing excellent service and skill to remote areas. In the next 5 years, I think R&B's physical office spaces will be more for the use and enjoyment of our customers. There'll be customers going to see concierge and tech person, and the lawyers just won't be in the offices. So key parts of ongoing success may be new age sales and marketing and joint venture strategies, both in remote regional Australia and capital city Australia. Excellent organisational structures and best practice systems, obviously high level technologies and ongoing continuous investment into it, and higher percentage of your gross going into continuous investment. And the real tricky one, of course, which most of you are already picking up and understand and are involved in, new age leadership for training, mentoring and management of remote team members and teams to develop what you need: skills, culture, communication. So Deb, that's it for me. Thank you very much everyone for putting up with me for that 10 minutes.
Thanks so much, Craig, for your generous time whilst in pain and sharing about the two very different business models. The one from Unison, which was, in my view, ahead of its time, and also the R&B, which has been fortuitous and picked up on the current climate and had the capability to leverage the current climate, as well as some of, I think, your technology investments that you've made in the past. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move into some discussion groups. They will be randomly allocated. Sharon's been busily working away, randomly allocating those. And what we're going to do is we're going to discuss a couple of questions in those groups for a set period of about 5 minutes, a little bit more. So what's your views, just sharing amongst yourselves, and please, if you're with Craig, be polite, on the R&B and the Unison business models, and also what was some take-home messages you took out of Craig's presentation. So this is just informal chat for you to explore further. I hope that was interesting and thought-provoking conversation that everyone had in your small groups. To do a bit of a wrap-up session, I'm going to hand over to Alex Spillett, who will have hopefully have some summary comments.
All right, Deborah, I guess the context of the discussion within our group is pretty much that whilst Craig and R&B and Unison might have been way ahead of their time when this pre-COVID, but the operating model now seems to be very much entrenched in working from home or working from somewhere else is not only very attractive to employers, but also very attractive to employees. Apart from the people who are the more social people, and even introverts like me need some people around them. There is not really a huge desire to get back into the office full time. Certainly for a few days a week, there is a need to have people together, but it's certainly not something that is going to return anytime soon. So, yeah, the operating model seems to be working from home or working from somewhere else is going to continue.
So that's the consensus. Yeah. All right. We're going to see if we can share the poll responses from the first poll that we've done. Looks like we're all doing all right personally. That's all right. I think we might move on to the next poll question with your indulgence. Once again, don't overthink it. You've only got a minute to just quickly respond. So we'll share all of those results after the forum as well. So moving along from the poll, I'd like to now introduce our next speaker. Greg Doyle will be speaking. Greg is the General Manager of Wollongong City Council and has worked in the public sector for 20 years and is probably well known to most of you. He's also passionate about regional development and a board member of RDA Illawarra. So welcome, Greg, and thank you for talking to us today. Greg's going to be discussing decentralisation and the regional decentralisation, and there has been some recent discussions at council on this and some advocacy work that is going to occur in that space. Over to
Thanks,
you, Greg.
Deb. Thanks a lot. And can I commend you and your team again for putting this session together today. For me already, in terms of listening to Craig, and just for everybody, I will be slideless listening to Craig earlier and then in that group chat. I think that's going to influence very much what I'm going to say now. Look, I'm going to do a little bit of a menagerie today. I'm obviously going to talk a wee bit around regionalisation and the role that we can play in the success of that for Wollongong and the region. But in particular, I want to share my own experience more recently and the council experience, which I think when I bring it back to the regionalisation, it might make sense. Just for those of you that don't know, obviously Wollongong City Council is relatively large size local government authority, predominantly a service function. Our business prior to COVID was very much around face-to-face and an evolving online presence, I suppose. Not necessarily an early adopter for the City of Innovation, but something that we were working on. But through community surveys, our community made it very clear to us their preference is for personal face-to-face, which obviously in a 21st century can be done by a variety of means. So in terms of the city pre-COVID-19, there's been a lot of energy and work focused on the commercial office space opportunities that the city does and can deliver, not only to the local and regional market, but more so to the state and domestic market. And I think there are people on this line that I've seen their faces that could speak more eloquently and in greater detail tactically in relation to that. But many people and many of you have contributed greatly and have made a choice too to come to Wollongong to set up your business or continue to expand your business, or as in Craig's sense, have HQs here too. So we've seen significant development application activity prior to COVID in regards to commercial office space, and we're seeing that come out of the ground now, and there's a very strong optimism, I believe, in terms of the market. And I'll talk a little bit about how that commercial space will still serve and meet the needs of an evolving and an adaptable workplace. But definitely, I believe the city is set up and moving forward to be a key player in this new work paradigm. So I'll talk a little bit now about council prior to COVID-19. You know, we have about 1,400 people that we're very thankful come to work, and our strongest asset is our people. And we've been finding that we've been very competitive in the marketplace for bringing people back to Wollongong to work that maybe have been away, and we all have a little GPS that seems to drag us back, or a range of people that were looking for sea or tree changes, and you know, the commute isn't something that they're that keen on. You know, for a number of people, and Deb mentioned it before, and in my group, Adam Zarf mentioned it too, you know, there's tens of thousands of people that every day were doing the commute to out of region to Sydney or southwestern Sydney as well. Our organisation, interestingly, we have a building in the CBD of Wollongong that has about 660 people in it, and we were looking at that point in time, just prior to COVID, to consolidate our people all into the one building. And I'll talk a little bit about the modern work environment, how that's definitely not what we're focused on now. Part of this issue around workplace flexibility for us prior to COVID-19 was around equity. We have half of our workforce that is employed in duties that make it virtually impossible for them to work from home. And therefore we had an equity issue. We also had WHS issue, and it all seemed a little bit too tricky for us historically from a traditional point of view to really pursue the modern office environment of working remotely. And embarrassingly, I'll share with you that we probably had 4 or 5 employees out of 1,400 people that had a formal registered work from home or a work remotely arrangement prior to March 2020, which is extraordinary. So what I might do is just shift into, from our perspective, what is it now that we're seeing? My experience that I'm going to share with you now in terms of our role from a regional perspective, but what does a modern office space look like, is very much influenced by my personal experience. I, through COVID-19, have been at work every day, and whilst we've provided the opportunity to people that work in our organisation to work remotely, I didn't take that up until about 10 or 11 days ago, where I've ruptured my knee, which has meant that I've had to use all of the opportunities and benefits that the City Council has provided to a range of other people now. And to be honest with you, it's something then today that I'll share my personal experience. We've now have over 625 of our people working remotely in an in and out arrangement, but based on an ability to deliver seamless service. I have not received any significant complaints from community, if not any, in regards to how that service has shifted and changed, which is quite interesting in terms of customer expectation that's going to influence the modern office space too. And I think we need to talk about that it's not just driven from us and our workforce, but as consumers, what are they looking for? We've seen significant commuting numbers decrease, and we're able to be furnished with those on a virtually daily basis. And we see a lot of those people that were commuting to Sydney, significant reduction in that, and they're obviously working from home or other work environments. From a city perspective, we can continue to see large DAs coming forward in a pre-DA environment, where the city, again, positively is looking for how we can continue to establish and build commercial office space, but also all of those other amenities and services that a CBD should offer workers in terms of recreational opportunities and enhancement to amenity. We're now not looking to consolidate our business as a modern office space. We're looking at a decentralised model that is probably a hybrid between people working remotely and working remotely from home, or in other work environments that we either own, other community facilities, or ones that we may come and start to talk to you about. So I see a large modern work environment shifting to see companies and organisations share their buildings and facilities in a way that we haven't seen before. We've also undertaken some focus groups and some sentiment checks, which I'm sure other organisations have too, to ask our people, what do they think a modern work environment is? And they're telling us it's about, from a regional perspective, and if the city is going to continue to really market itself for decentralisation, as Deb had mentioned, the movement of large office spaces or workforces into our region, it needs to be greater accessibility, integrated transport, technology connection needs to be at a very high standard. We're looking at low density work environments, segmented to some extent, significantly higher standard of cleaning regimes. People want to see this, and I think it's actually got to be part of your value proposition. Colleague wellbeing focused and very much around environmentally friendly. One of the key things that we found is that our workforce wanted to know that our air conditioning, as a perfect example, was not on recycle, but was actually ventilation was a key issue for our staff and also tenants in some of our buildings too. They wanted to understand the facilities because we are one of the city's largest landlords. That flexibility and adaptability, a green modern environment as well from a regional offer, but also from a building perspective, and you'll see that with our urban greening, but also from an office perspective, people want to see green as well from a psychological point of view. The sort of things that we're also looking at is in solar and water use and technology. Materials in those facilities and buildings and appliances need to be easy to sanitize. Small meeting rooms with AV, decals and interpretive stickers have become part of our life. A shift to unconventional layouts and an ability for staff to have an inside-outside flexibility too. That hot desking is one thing, but how do I manage that with sanitized and clean environment as well? So in terms of the offer regionally and from a city perspective, they're the things that we're seeing ourselves. Whilst our home-based situation has been desirable or almost the only option for some people, we're now seeing our own staff and then also other business and employees in the city coming to us to ask about what opportunities there are for smaller footprint workplaces, and then also whether they can share opportunities to have meetings or actually come in and co-use and cohabitate spaces as well.
60 seconds, Greg.
So look, from our perspective, we believe that the city is in a great position to be able to leverage from a regional destination for office space. But I suppose what I want to just demonstrate to you is one of the region's largest employers, we've got to model the same behaviour and the same offer ourselves, and not just expect the commercial sector to actually pick up on this as well. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thanks, Greg. So I'm actually, before we go to our next breakout group, I'm just going to share on the screen so that you get it in your heads, hopefully, what the discussion question is for this round table. And Greg touched on more about what Wollongong City Council is doing, but I'd like us to take that to another level from the discussion on decentralisation. So in the past, you know, Invest Wollongong has done a great job, which is a collaborative of Wollongong City Council and the university and the New South Wales government, in marketing us under certain paradigms of our competitive advantage, like, you know, lots of A-grade office commercial space coming out of the ground. So I wouldn't mind hearing back from you when we come back together again on what is our competitive advantage in the new world, in the new future of work, and what does that look like? What is it?
In the group that we had, is there was a consensus that doing work in Wollongong was all about trust and transparency, and those are some of our biggest advantages, and also that our region, people seem to prefer to do work with people in an outer metro region or an area like the Illawarra than they would do in a major city. The other thing that was brought up was the collaboration between the councils and the local government areas has been seen to be a positive for the region. So that was another thing, and the connectivity and the fact that there are a lot of internal relationships in the region, also having a really positive impact for Wollongong and the Illawarra.
Great. Thanks. I think in our group we just had two things, lifestyle and proximity, but proximity could be a double-edged sword. So that was our two main take-homes in terms of the competitive advantages. So we're just going to, I think Sharon probably got it ready to share the poll from the last poll we did. So here you go. So we effectively manage our people by outcomes, not observation. And, oh, it's neck and neck. I was curious to see how that one went.
Closer than I thought.
Very close. All right, so we're just going to do the next poll, which has 3 questions on it. So same as before. Don't overthink it. So we've had 2 speakers so far. The first one, of course, was Craig sharing his business models and operating paradigm of 2 professional services businesses. The second was on decentralisation and Wollongong City Council's view on regional decentralisation and what they're doing as well. And the third, we're going to, even though we have actually, certainly in our small group discussions, been talking about the people side. Now we're going to have a deeper dive into the people side with the lovely Renee Whiteside, who is the people and culture leader from Mercer. Hopefully everybody knows what Mercer is. However, I'm sure she'll tell us. And Renee is a lifelong learner. I was quite inspired to read her. So, so Renee is also the chair convener of ARI, which is the Australian Human Resources Institute in the Illawarra. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Renee Whiteside.
Good morning and thanks, Deb. I guess it's quite clear that everyone's really keen to learn a bit more about the agenda of the future of work and of course working from home. And I note in the earlier survey that we've called out that the biggest obstacle from working from home could possibly be perceived as culture. So Deb, I'll just ask to move to the next slide. Some of you may know Mercer as a global HR consultancy firm. We have other arms of our business, including that in Wollongong, of which we process superannuation for 4 major clients. The first slide I've got here today, if you could just click to the click through that slide, sorry. Thank you. And the third one, yep, great. I just thought it was important to kick off with a summary of our global talent trends survey that we did in 2020, just to really position ourselves around, I guess, thriving experiences and what do our employees really want from us. And to acknowledge, I guess, the 20th century view of our partnership with employees, which is certainly the loyalty contract. We've then moved into what we refer to as the engagement contract, where not only our basic needs are met, but also our psychological needs are met. But the survey data showed us that we're moving more and more into what we call the experience contract with our employees, where they're looking for making sure that their growth needs are met, whether that's through purpose, meaning, or feeling that they have impact at work, and that we're certainly moving into a phase of a human-led, technology-enabled, I guess, partnership with our employees, where rewarding experiences, I guess, are in exchange for our employment contract ultimately. So that just sets the scene in my mind around where we're moving to today. If we could move to the next slide. What I've tried to show you here is just a very high-level case study of some of the things that we're doing here at Mercer in Wollongong in our new virtual world. So some of you may know we have up to 600 colleagues in Wollongong. And pre-COVID, we probably had about 30% of our colleagues working from home, particularly in support roles. But COVID certainly motivated us to, I guess, enliven our hashtag All Roles Can Flex campaign. And I'm pleased to say that we currently have 85% of our colleagues working from home. So looking at our daily occupancy stats, we range between 8% and 15% of colleagues coming into the office. And generally, we're finding that those colleagues are male in or male out colleagues, or colleagues that need to do something with our online in-house systems as well. So I'm pleased to say that our productivity has improved significantly in working from home, and certainly I think our engagement of the majority of our colleagues has also improved. Just to share, our hashtag All Roles Can Flex campaign is not just about working from home, it's about flexible hours. It's about working compressed hours. So me personally, I work a full-time week over 4 days, and I'm pleased to be able to spend time doing canteen duty or otherwise in the community with my children on a Friday. Job sharing, and we're certainly encouraging people to work from any location at any time. So we currently have colleagues working from holiday houses down the coast, or we have colleagues certainly working from their study at home. I thought it was important to call out that we are still frequenting, I guess, the office, and it's not in the traditional 9 to 5 way. We are returning to the office perhaps for a monthly team meeting, of course, in accordance with our COVID safe planning and occupancy rules for our meeting rooms. We're coming together to collaborate using whiteboards and charts, I guess, to brainstorm and innovate new ways of working and how we go about our business. We come into the office for training and certainly inductions to support any new colleagues that come on board. And I guess we've had a greater focus on team building in the office as well. But that's how I'd largely categorise the purpose of our office at this point in time. And I can't foresee, I guess, that changing too much, even when restrictions lift further. One of the challenges that we have had is certainly recognition in our virtual environment. And so I thought I would just share with you some of the key things that we've been doing. We've been sending out what we call colleague care packages, whether that's a bottle of wine or flowers or gift arrangements for our colleagues, or whether it's as simple as just a card with a personalised signature from the leader of the business, thanking them for their efforts. We've certainly used some online reward options as well, whether that's through Prezi or Red Balloon for gift certificates or otherwise. And we're often participating with virtual drinks on a monthly or fortnightly basis, with some engagement events, whether that's an online Pictionary using the whiteboard sharing app through Zoom, or whether it's a trivia quiz at the end of the week as well. We've navigated our social club to an online version, and we're finding that we're increasing our membership there. And we're also trying to get our colleagues to walk and talk a little bit more whilst they're at work. And what I mean by that is putting their iPods in their ears, I guess, and taking a walk around the block and creating what we would call some podcasts, whether that's around some of the really important purposeful objectives of our business, whether that's around pride and diversity or our Women at Mercer focus as well. So just looking for opportunities where we're not just Zooming all the time, looking at each other on a screen, because we can all suffer from Zoom fatigue, but also thinking about what meetings can we actually suggest that our colleagues are going to walk and talk and get a bit of exercise and support their wellness at the same time. Our leadership methodology has certainly changed, and it's changed, I guess, in a virtual sense as well. We're probably having more daily check-ins with our people, whether they're short, sharp 15-minute turbos or whether they're half-an-hour meetings, depending on the role and the role requirements. We're having a weekly Q&A session with our leaders of the business, which is really valuable. So that means we have our head of finance, myself, and the head of our operations online for an hour every week, and colleagues can just use the chat box and ask any question that they would like. And we find that quite a purposeful and transparent way to keep in contact with our colleagues, but also keep across any significant issues that we are currently facing into. Our town halls have gotten a lot easier. It's very easy to get 600 people online as opposed to 600 people in a room at one time. And in some cases, we're having an hour of power, which would mean that we clear out any meetings that we have. My team from 4 till 5 o'clock every day aren't allowed to attend meetings. That's simply an hour of power to get through emails or do some deep thinking work. We have a wellness hour once a week, and that purpose is simply, as I said previously, to get up, go for a walk, do some yoga or whatever that looks like. It is an hour of our working week, but it is a strong sentiment to our staff. And then, of course, we've got lunch and learns as well. Again, walk and talks, whereas just small bite-sized learning bites to support the capability and development of our colleagues. But I guess that all sounds pretty fancy and exciting around how we've transformed our business in the virtual online world. But I guess I don't want to underestimate the health implications for vulnerable colleagues, which may be isolated, working from home, may have a psychological impairment, or may be living with somebody in a DV situation, or just have difficulties in the home environment. So we've turned our focus most recently to self-care plans. I have attached another slide which will provide us a summary in a moment of what that self-care plan looks like, but I would like to encourage anyone on this call today to think about the importance, but also the symbol that we're providing colleagues when we share them a self-care plan. We're looking at exercise and nutrition, financial wellbeing seminars, and of course we've gotten together our mental health first aiders and our work health and safety committees online to support our colleague wellness. So I'll just ask to conclude, Deb, just to share that self-care plan if we can. Here we've got 7 different steps which we're just encouraging colleagues to have a look at one-on-one or with their manager, depending on what they think is appropriate, to step through and assess their own self-care and promote ultimately their own self-care through some wellbeing strategies. And as I said, we're finding this is a great strategy to symbol to our workforce that we do care about them, but they still need to take some time out, set and reflect and support their own wellbeing. So that's a pretty rough and quick summary, I guess, of where we're at from an organisation perspective in our virtual environment. I hope there's at least 1 or 2 tips or tricks there that you might be able to share and transition into your own environment as well. Deb, hopefully I've caught up some time for you by about a minute there.
You have. You've done excellently, really well. Gold star to you, Renee. So So thanks so much for sharing the Mercer way, and certainly there's a lot of takeouts, I think, from me, and I think you've set the bar up there in terms of the wellness approach that Mercer uses in hashtag all roles can flex. I'll have to subscribe to that on Twitter. So I think we're going to once again move into some discussion, and we'll just have a slightly shorter version so we can leave some time for wrapping up to talk about it. But yeah, we did ask this in a poll question: what's your biggest remote working people management challenge? And also, I think it'd be good for people to reflect on in the discussion session about whether you've been inspired today to have self-care plans for your employees as a part of, if they're in the remote working environment. So I think we're going to, Sharon's going to. All right. So Alex, did you have some wrap up to share?
Yeah, look, I did. With our group, it was quite interesting. One of the biggest challenges seems to be workforces where part of the workforce or a portion of it has to be in the workplace, and the rest of them can work from home or anywhere else. And managing that particular aspect of it, where half the workforce might be resentful that they have to turn up, but everybody else gets to work from somewhere else. So there is obviously a management and leadership aspect to that needs to be addressed, and it's not always an easy balance to make and to come to terms with. So that was one of them. The other one was the frequency of check-ins. How frequently should we check in with people? Is that a daily thing? People get sick of having the Friday check-ins every week. Some people want it more frequently, some people less so. So it's striking that balance. And the other one was about self-care plans, and there was thought that was actually quite an advanced opportunity that not everybody had taken as yet, but certainly something that was worthwhile considering. So those were the three sort of key issues from our group.
Wonderful. So we talked about a bit of the practical challenges of managing occupational health and safety at home, and being able to establish when are my people okay. And Renee was in our group, so I'm delighted to say that Mercer are happy to share the self-care plan with everyone who was on this call. So we'll be sharing a copy of the self-care plan, and also we've recorded this session so you can share it with your team so other people can go on and watch it. We'll be putting that on our YouTube channel, I think. I'm looking at her to nod her head. And in addition, the survey results, of which the last one you have ready to share about now. Whoa, 97%, that's pretty conclusive. A bit more spread in the work hours. And the hybrid model wins in terms of the sharing. So we'll share that with you, the consolidated report from the survey. So I think we'll just do a little bit of a wrap-up session and bring it all together. So I'll start, and then I'll ask Alex to fill in what I haven't covered, if that's all right. So to start with, the takeouts that I took is that we all need to be in the baked goods business, but we all want to be making French pastries, and we'll be delivering them via the internet, because we'll be all working from anywhere. So there'll only be a few customer service concierge type people that have to stay in the office. Country people like working with Wollongong people more than city people. So we've got a competitive advantage there. Some of the other competitive advantages that we have is that we all have a little GPS in us that drives us back to Wollongong. So that's a common one that I've heard. And some of our competitive advantages are lifestyle and proximity. But the proximity can be a double-edged sword. Just we're close, but we're far enough away, but we're close, but we're far enough away. Some talent losses are going to Sydney because people are still leveraging higher pays, but then we're gaining some talent as well. I love the hashtag all roles can flex. I want an hour of power every day. Can I just say that? Is that 4 to 5 every day, Renee? Or once a week?
Every day.
Oh,
It's very productive, Deb.
I'm going to claim that. And also a wellness hour every day, but I need one of those every day too. So that's shaving 2 hours off my day. And it's critical to have good leadership, and I think we've all learned from the self-care plans. So that's sort of my sports page of takeouts from what I've heard from today. Alex, what did I miss?
I think you've covered the highlights pretty well, Deborah. I would say that I think that Wollongong does have some distinct advantages in terms of being the anywhere to work from, both in terms of livability and its connectivity and the trust and the cooperation that we see locally. I think the other challenge that we're going to face as this working from anywhere continues is the leadership and management, the new leadership and management paradigm that emerges, in that you can't see the people that are working with you. You have to have different ways of setting objectives and measuring productivity, and you also have to have different ways of motivating people. And it becomes even more of a challenge where part of your workforce is in the office and part of it is working from anywhere else. So I think those management and leadership skills are going to be things that emerge fairly quickly as being very, very important in doing this. Those were my key takeouts.
Great. Do speakers want to have a key last word? Craig?
No, thanks, Deb. I was really, really interested in that session. I got a lot out of it. I really like the breakout rooms, and thanks to the other speakers. Very impressive. I've learned a lot.
Thanks, Craig, for sharing and presenting your wonderful, innovative, and I think well invested in business models. Where's Greg? I can't see Greg. Oh, there's Greg.
Thanks, Deb. No, thank you. Again, just the opportunity to continue to build capacity and capability in our business environment and our network. And these sessions are great for that. I met some people today I've not met before. So thank you for sharing and always learning. So thank you.
Great. And Renee, did you want to have any last words? Thank you so much for sharing.
Pleasure. I think it's just a reminder just to look after the well-being of our people during this uncertain period for many.
All right, everybody's doing thumbs ups. Thank you very much. And thank you all for coming on board and being involved. I think we've had, at the height of people, although we've lost a few, we had about 45 that were attending. So I think that's a really good demonstration of people that are keen and interested. And we'll put you on a bit of a list and we'll keep you informed and share as we progress on the RDA Illawarra's project in relation to the future work, and happy to share as always. So thank you all. Bye.